My name is Leila Levy, and I have a boutique travel concierge called Travel Design by Leila Levy. And this is my business is basically what we used to do, which is traveling and going all over the world and seeing different places. And part of the reason that I started my business was to help others to see the beautiful world that we live in. My mission in life is to educate, inspire, and then assist people to travel. So my main focus typically is to help people with customize, uniquely build, tailored trips for themselves. But I have a full travel agency business as well. So I help with any kind of travel that my clients need. So I live and breathe travel constantly. And if you wanted to follow me on Instagram, you can go to Travel Design by Leila or Facebook under the same name. And here is my email as well. But most importantly, I have a very special guest today, and that I'm going to get Ernie to introduce himself. But before getting into that, I give you a little bit of background of why I started doing the virtual travel series. So with all of us not being able to travel, I had this challenge of, so how do I keep inspiring and educating people? Although I share a ton of things on my Instagram and Facebook, but I came up with this idea of literally taking people and traveling together. So I've started the virtual travel series. We're actually in our fourth week, and we've been to Peru, Morocco, South Africa. And at the end of the presentation, I'll share the link into some of the past recordings of those places that we have been and some of the upcoming places that we're going to visit. So without any further ado, let me introduce you to Ernie. Ernie, do you have your video on?
Yeah, let me just add that. There we go.
Cool.
All right. Oh, let me just fix that so that my head's not cut off. All right, there we go. So as Leila had mentioned, my name is Ernie Ballant, and I'm the Global Paper Specialist for G Adventures. I've been working with G Adventures now for well over 3 years. I've worked in multiple different facets within the travel industry. I've been fortunate enough to travel to 25 countries, and I'm still counting, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next destination that I will be going to once everything is back to somewhat normal. But for me, definitely travel is very, very important. I think travel is one of the biggest forms of wealth distribution. And what has really drew me to G Adventures from the get-go was our sustainability and community travel aspect. And that's always been really, really important to me, is to have that opportunity to be able to connect with local people, be able to interact, and really immerse myself in the culture. And I definitely think that I found my place and my home at G Adventures, because these are such huge, huge factors for me when I'm traveling, is I want to make sure that I'm supporting local people, local businesses, but then also still having that real explorer type of experience that I know that we all yearn for. Yeah, I just feel more kind of like a modern day explorer, as you can say, traveling with G Adventures in small groups. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
Excellent. So really going into why family journeys and what's not to love. It's especially when you travel is such an enlightening and eye-opening experience for children of all ages. The food experience, sightseeing, and I guess most importantly, the reason that parents would love that time, the family travel, is because of the bonding and the relationship and the quality time that they have during the family travel. And that's all fancy and glorious, but it comes with a lot of challenging times, overwhelming packing, even deciding where to go and how to go, a lot of unpredictable schedules, sometimes like cranky kids, and they could give you so much trouble along the way. But that doesn't mean that we should stop family travel, because it's so fun and exciting. Um, so this slide talks about, so before getting into any kind of destination, any family travel specifics, I wanted to share some of the key points about family travel. And these are the points that I believe would make or break a good family travel. One of the things that you should definitely do to have a very good family travel is to keep your kids engaged at any age. And that means different things for different people. That means depending on what ages they are, they've obviously have different needs. So if you have obviously smaller kids, that means something, how to keep them engaged. What are the things that you need to take with you or prepare to keep a 7-year-old entertained versus a 15-year-old or a 17-year-old? These are all the things that actually matters a lot. And my second advice to you is to not focus on the destination first, and go with the interest first. So what kind of a family trip are you going? Is your family a beach type of person, or adventurous, or foodie? Or is this just like a relaxing time by the beach and you really don't care where you want it to go? So pick interest first and then destination second. Basically, think about destination after you thought about what kind of like an interest trip you wanted to have. And get the kids involved into the planning process. Get them something to do, a research project, and get them involved into this. And then studies actually shown that even planning a vacation, not even going on a vacation, would give you a boost of happiness before you take off. And the other thing to really help your kids enjoy the trip is explain that journey. So I have some of my clients that before they go onto their trip, they really sit down with their kids and explain why they're going, explain the whole process of the countries and the cities that they will go. And they keep the kids very excited and curious, and even they do some sort of like research as part of that. And especially the other things with the family travel is you have to keep that in mind, that balance is so important. And it's you can't, there has to be a balance between very structured and the easygoing fun kind of who cares, let's see whatever happens along the way. And my last tip for you is with a family travel, it's super important that you plan and plan and plan, even from what to pack. Vaccination for kids is so important, or the type of activities that you wanted to do. And especially if there is allergies or any kind of mobility issues, that needs to be factored in, and it's super important. Talking about family options, and one of the reasons that I started this webinar to tell you and to share with you about what are the options in terms of family travel. These are some of the easy options that we probably would, it comes to mind first. Easy beach vacations, a lot of Florida getaway, the all-inclusives that is just easy. And that's why a lot of people are actually doing it, because it's easy, one stop. You really don't need too much planning or putting it all together, not so much research time needed, or even Disney trips. Who doesn't like Disney? But how many times do you want to go to Disney? And I talk to people, and they're exhausted of going to Disney's and beach vacations and all inclusives and cruises, but they don't know any better, and they don't know what the other options are. So in this specific presentation, I wanted to also introduce to you the other options that you can have as a family, and we'll go through that, and why you need to think about that, and why it's important. So Ernie would talk a little bit more about National Geographic and their partnership with G-Adventure, but I'm sure all of you would know the National Geographic brand and those trips that they put together. And it comes with quite a hefty price tag. And it's not really very affordable when it comes to travel, and that's why G-Adventure partner up with National Geographic and created this sort of like travel. But more importantly, and this is actually in line with, I don't know if you're following me, but I had an interview with CTV News before the March break, end of February, before all this craziness happens. And one of the things that I had talked about is, do you know what are the travel trends that are happening in 2020? And the fact that a lot of families are looking into embracing new cultures and into culturally immersive experiences, and going somewhere that has a unique history, culture, food, entertainment for the kid. And it's basically they just want to take their kids outside of the North American bubble. So these kids actually truly see the world, and not just being in a resort that everything is a 5-star and looks great and fabulous. This is basically one of the things that are happening, which people really wanted to go and spend time with the local experts. They want to truly see what that country is about. One of the things that National Geographic's family journey had done is they've thoughtfully crafted some of the itineraries based on people, based on families in mind, and thinking about what a family who cares about culture and experiences, what kind of destinations would be good for them, what kind of activities would be good for them, and that's sort of how these trips are put together. So I'll pass this on to Ernie to share with you more on a little bit of the National Geographic family journeys, and tell us, Ernie, tell us more about this.
I think you did a really good job. So National Geographic's, this is a partnership that we've had with National Geographic now, going on, I'd probably say about 5 or 6 years. And we actually started out with our National Geographic Journeys, which is just our regular group trips. And we noticed that there was a huge need for family travel. And that is a growing niche within the adventure travel market. But just in general within the travel and tourism industry as well. And we're finding that a lot of people are looking to do intergenerational travel. So traveling with extended families, traveling with the grandparents, and instead of going to the all-inclusives as Leela had mentioned, actually going and experiencing the destinations and the culture. So essentially, these are a new line of trips for adventure-loving families. that are really looking for a different way to experience and rediscover the world. And I always like to say that it's a great way to create culture travelers from a young age as well. I definitely think immersing children from a young age in travel, in culture, in different destinations and countries really does expose them to the different ways that people live, and really creates a more open-minded youngster essentially. And as they grow, they really appreciate that as well. So these itineraries are essentially designed for children 7 and up, that are really looking to experience, the rich, diverse cultures of the various destinations that we go to. And these itineraries are very, very unique and interactive. And we have activities that we've created in there in partnership with Nat Geo as well, that create and inspire travelers from a young age, as well as the parents, and keeps everyone really, really motivated and active throughout the entire program as well. And there's multiple different themes as well. So not only are can you choose to be more of that culinary type of experience, but it could also be more of that adventure based as well. So I definitely think that's an important thing to keep in mind. So what makes family journeys unique? So like I said, these are thoughtfully crafted itineraries. There's interactive activities within the destination or within the experience, that are in addition to experiencing the destination. That could be anything from photography to storytelling, wildlife, culture, history, and geography as well. The beautiful thing with this as well is that these groups are small. So you're looking at a max of usually about 20. But the beauty is that we don't need to have 20 total people on the group. It could be a family of four that book on the tour. And if it's only 4 people, the tour will still go. That's a fantastic thing as well. But another key thing to keep in mind as well is that we have two of our CEOs. And CEOs, we call them as our Chief Experience Officers. And these are the most integral part of any G Adventure tour, including our National Geographic Journey family programs as well. Not only are they National Geographic certified guides as well, but they live in the destination, they speak the language, they know the history, and the passion and the love that they have for their country really does transcend. And you will definitely feel that passion when they are talking about the history, the culture, and having you try different foods and different experiences and whatnot as well. Another key thing to keep in mind as well is that there's comfortable and convenient accommodations as well. I'll talk a little bit about that in the coming slides. And one of the most important things as well that I know Leela had mentioned as well is child-friendly meals. So I know these days there are, some dietary restrictions. Some children are a little bit more pickier than others. We come across all of that. So that's another key thing to keep in mind. So if your children are like to eat chicken fingers and french fries, we can do that in North America, all the way to Africa and Asia and Europe. So that's definitely a key thing to keep in mind. So if there are any sort of dietary issues, or they're just picky eaters, we can definitely accommodate those requests as well. So definitely keep that in mind. All right. So talking a little bit about the accommodations. So whether we're in cities and towns, we'll be staying in more smaller boutique type accommodations. It could also be guest houses and inns when we're staying in a more remote setting as well. And they could be anything from a smaller area, depending on the location. But when we are in major cities, they will be centrally located. Another key thing to keep in mind is that some of the itineraries will also have resort-style accommodations, which is great for a little bit of relaxation and R&R. And then for more of the remote areas as well, which will highlight some of those destinations as well, we'll be staying at lodges, permanent permanent tented camps in Africa, local guest houses. And if there isn't an upgraded option that is available within the area, it will be the best available accommodations that will be available within that area. On to the next one. All right. So talking a little bit about the National Geographic themes as well. So the key things that I wanted to talk a little bit about these as well, there's 4 major themes that really do make up that National Geographic Journeys family programs. So if you wanted to move on to the next slide, Leela. Perfect. So the first one to keep in mind is the wildlife and conservation. This is a major part to any National Geographic tour, whether it be their regular mainstream or our family programs as well. Wildlife and conservation plays a huge part for National Geographic, as well as for G Adventures. And we're committed to the conservation of the wildlife and learning more in-depth knowledge about the wildlife within that given destination that you're traveling to. So many of the programs will actually have on-tour wildlife conservation experiences. So I'll talk a little bit more about those. One example that we have here is our Costa Rica family journey, where we actually go to visit the Monteverde Cloud Forest Institute. And we actually go in and do a guided nature walk in the evening with one of the Monteverde team there as well. So they'll talk a little bit about the facilities. They'll talk about what they're doing to actually conserve the ecosystem, the wildlife, and really kind of get a little bit of a hands-on experience in the different types of work that they do as well, which is fantastic. All right, moving on to our second theme. Another one which is super important is history and culture. So this is another one that we're really dedicated to celebrating the history and the diversity of the people around the world. Like I mentioned when I took over, is that we think that by immersing people in real, authentic local experiences, this will really open up people's eyes and minds to, the different ways that people live, why their customs are the way that they are. And I definitely think that immersing children and families from a young age is huge. Having interactions with local families, going into local people's homes, and really interacting, that is one of the big things. And I keep saying interacting, but that's really important. It could be anything from, language to listening to local music, the folklore, to cuisine, trying the different types of food as well, which really does kind of create that memorable experience for the family as well. And a couple of examples on this one as well for the culture and history experience is in Japan. We actually take we take our families to a traditional cultural experience where everyone basically dresses up as sumo wrestlers, and you basically take your hand in learning the authentic art of sumo wrestling, which is a huge sport in Japan. So to be able to experience that and really understand why and where sumo wrestling came from is huge. Another one that we do as well is the drumming class, as well as a samurai sword lesson as well. So just keep in mind that it's not real samurai swords, they're fake ones. So just to kind of get that real cultural experience and the history behind why samurai swords were such a big part to the Japanese history. And then moving on to Europe as well. You went ahead too fast, Leela. I just wanted to touch on one more on the previous slide if you have. Perfect. So just talking a little bit about our Italy program as well is where we're actually going in Venice. We're actually going to a Venice mask facility as well, where we actually do hands-on, and the family will have that opportunity to make that memorable experience and create Venetian masks, which is a whole experience on its own to do it at home, but when you're actually in Venice and really doing this in an actual facility where they create these Venetian masks is absolutely amazing. And then in Rome, we have the opportunity to do some gladiator lessons, which is fantastic. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. And then obviously cooking. Who doesn't love to cook and who doesn't like some good old pasta? Those are just some of the experiences that we have when we're talking about history and culture.
I
All
was
right.
actually talking to someone today, and I was saying that the fact that you went to Japan and just took a few picture, it doesn't really say that you have been to this country unless you've really experienced some of those key cultural activities that we all need
Exactly.
to do in any part of the world that we go.
Exactly. I definitely think that's why, small group and family travel, doing it this way, you will get that much more in-depth experience versus just going to see the highlights, but actually going into the smaller towns and the villages, doing those interactions. Those are what make and break those memorable experiences. So definitely something to keep in mind. Our third theme to this is photography and storytelling as well. So this is, I think, probably one of my favorite parts of doing an adventure trip, whether family related or not, is doing the photography and storytelling. And the way that the CEOs talk about the history, talk about the people. I think you're on mute. Nope, no. Oh, okay. So just talking about the history, the people, the local culture, why this specific town does things the way that they do, and they basically play it out in a story to the family, and it really brings the culture and the people alive. But then also doing those photography lessons as well with some fantastic Nat Geo certified guides as well, is taking those fantastic shots, just like the one pictured in the slide as well, where we take a couple of hours when we're in the Monteverde cloud forest and whatnot, and actually have the opportunity to take some pictures of the local wildlife, the flora, fauna, all of that kind of stuff as well. Um, so yeah, I mean, those are some really key and integral parts to a Nat Geo trip as well, and these definitely play a key role in that kind of memorable experience that the children and the family will be able to remember for years to come.
Those are some of the photography and storytelling is definitely one of the things that I see National Geographic is doing fantastic. And I don't think any other company whatsoever is even like doing anything close to what they're doing. So it's the photography and storytelling of these experiences are very, very unique. I just wanted to emphasize more on that.
Perfect. And exploration is another key part as well. Being explorers by heart, by nature as well, exploring the entire world, like the famous explorers back in the day. Those are the types of experiences that we also want to have for our Nat Geo family travelers as well, is creating those cultivating those explorers of tomorrow, essentially, and essentially immersing them from a young age to get in doing those explorations, asking those questions, and really going outside of their comfort zone from a young age. I definitely think plays a huge part to building their character and really experiencing the destination as well. So whether that be doing scavenger hunts and essentially kind of creating that kind of exploration mindset from a young age is a huge one as well. Do you want to add anything else to that, Leela?
No, covered it off. Fantastic.
Perfect. All right. So talking a little bit about some of the itineraries as well, we wanted to, both Leela and I wanted to feature some really, really interesting, some more usual mainstream type of experiences with some of the more off the beaten track, different types of experiences as well. So we're going to be featuring, I think it's about four 4 itineraries, I think it is, if I remember. If you wanted to move to the next slide. Perfect. So I just wanted to highlight where we go as of right now. So right now we have 12 destinations that we're currently able to experience all over the world. We have everything from North America, Yellowstone, Alaska, down to South America and Central America, Costa Rica and Peru. We have, Europe, Iceland, France, and then moving into Africa, Morocco, Tanzania, South Africa, as well as Italy for Europe, And for Asia, we have Vietnam and Japan as well. So these are all some really, really popular destinations that we currently travel to. And these are essentially some destinations that our families have been requesting. So this is why we initially started with these 12 exciting destinations. And as the years progress, we will definitely be expanding to multiple other destinations as well.
So before we move forward, I actually have some poll that I wanted to run. So poll number, I missed poll number 1, but poll number 2 is basically asking you where you want to go. So let me just launch that poll. Because I had forgotten the first one, so I threw the first one, and then we're going to do the second one right after. All right, so we have the majority that are excited to, well, actually it's almost a, so the number of no's that they don't know really what's been, let's end the polling. Okay, so all right, so no actually won, interestingly enough. Again, so this kind of culturally immersive experiences that Ernie and I are walking you through is something that's been trending. And a lot of parents these days, they want to take their kids to different parts of the world, but not only just seeing it, but truly experiencing it. And going to those, the photography and storytelling, those activities that is part of these smaller group tours that are really, really important for the kids to see and feel by local guides. And one of the things that is really important for me, and I always consider that for my business, is to support the local economy and local businesses. And staying at those locally owned, family owned places, it's really important. And that's how we can support the economy. So now I'm going to launch the number 2 poll, which is, well, I'm way behind. We just wanted to wrap up, to recap this part that we've covered so far, which is which of these themes that we covered actually resonated the most with you. So I see the photography and storytelling, wildlife and conservation. Cool. All right, so let me end the polling. All right, so wildlife and conservation actually won. Moving into the third poll. I promise this is the last one. So looking at this map, which destination is on your bucket list? Where do you want to go? And if you're following me on Instagram, so last year I was in Japan, so and I haven't really had a chance to share my Asia trip. So I went 2 weeks in Japan during the cherry blossom, and then Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand. And then we came back from China, but I've been sharing about my Japan trip on my Instagram. So if you're interested to learn more about my Japan experience, and I can promise it was probably one of the best trips that I had taken. You could see it in my Instagram. There is under highlights, there is a Japan icon. So wow, interesting. All right, so Iceland, Morocco, and Japan are on the bucket list of our audience tonight. So excellent. So let's dive in. So Ernie and I picked few destinations that we thought is trending, and it's very popular these days, and we did wanted to talk about those with you. So going to Costa Rica, and some of you may have been to Costa Rica, but Ernie will take us through this unique journey through the National Geographic. But I wanted to share a little bit about why Costa Rica should be on your bucket list. Obviously, it's nature and animal lovers paradise. There are abundance of wildlife and plant life to experience, and anything from cloud forest, rainforest, low mountain forest, swamp forest, volcanoes, hot springs, beaches. Where else would you have all of this? And the marine territory is significantly larger than its land territory. So if you're into seeing animals and things like that, it's beautiful. Beaches. And again, I guess the other thing that stands out for me when it comes to Costa Rica is the amount of adventurous activities that you could do. Things from canopy zip lining, waterfall hiking, horseback riding, ATVing, mountain biking. And a lot of those things is something that you could very well done do in Costa Rica. Some mud bath experiences that is also very unique. And I guess the last thing before passing it on to Ernie to take us to Costa Rica in more details is the Pura Vida mindset and attitude that they have, which is don't worry about it, just and be happy, which I guess this is something that we probably all need at this point. And this is something that I'm personally trying to do that. And obviously all the coffee plantations and all the other places that you can go and see. So Ernie, take us to this specific Costa Rica itinerary.
Yeah, so I wanted to highlight the Costa Rica family journey, and we call it From the Rainforest to the Coast. This itinerary is a great balance between activity, relaxation, and family time. And just like Leila had mentioned at the beginning, is balance is really, really important, especially when you're traveling as a family. And that's a key thing that we've definitely kept in mind through designing all of the itineraries, is making sure that there's just the right amount of activity for the family to be able to experience. So for example, doing the canopy zip line through the Monteverde cloud forest, and seeing the lemurs and the monkeys and the toucans and all that kind of stuff as you're kind of sliding through the various levels of the zip line is fantastic to be able to have that as well. But then to also have more of that kind of storytelling and photography side of it as well is doing the evening nature walk in the cloud forest as well, and walking through the hanging bridges, and really getting to hear the stories of the cloud forest, and really seeing the wildlife in their natural habitat in the evening as well. Which is fantastic. And hearing the sounds, and that's one of the big things as well when you're traveling is the senses, and when you're doing a trip to Costa Rica, all of your senses are going to be you're going to be hit, and especially when you're doing those evening walks as well too, as the sun's essentially setting, you're hearing the owls starting to hoot, the monkeys starting to holler, and you just hear the ruffling in the trees. It's absolutely amazing. And then moving on to the smells and the tastes of those cooking classes as well, when we're going into those local cooking classes as well. So depending on seasonality, you could be doing anything from tortilla making, to making chicken, but all authentic. So when you come back, you can actually host a Costa Rican cookout for your family, and just really kind of relive your experience and talk about it, and engage and kind of storytell essentially what you had learned, which is fantastic. And then as we move over to sorry, the coastline as well, just as Leela had mentioned, is doing more of that relaxation, doing the volcanic baths, and doing the natural mud baths. Doing those as a family are absolutely fantastic and super relaxing. So you're definitely getting quite a bit of different types of experiences within this itinerary. And in the 8 days, it's a great kind of highlight of Costa Rica, which will definitely want you to come back. I know many people that have gone to Costa Rica, and they've gone back multiple times because one time is just not enough to be able to experience it. There's just so much to see and do, and as your children grow, we have other itineraries that they can join in on as well too. But this is that great introduction for those young ones to really kind of experience Costa Rica. All right, moving on to the next.
Moving on to Italy. I'm sure I don't really need to convince you a lot that Italy is a fantastic destination, but I just wanted to touch on some of the specifics of why Italy would be a fantastic place for a family destination. You know that I guess for Italy, the cities are amazing, as well as beautiful villages, and when it comes to art and history, obviously Italy has some of the best museums and cultural places that it's unbelievable. And where else would you want to tell the story of the Christianity, apart from Vatican, or basically bringing that experience with your kids. And then the other thing that I'm personally, because I'm a foodie for sure, so when it comes to Italy, and the food and the eateries, and how much actually kids are the kids are loving the food. They've eaten pasta, which is obviously not even comparable to what we are eating here in North America, but a lot of them, they love pizza, pastas, and a lot of these places are, again, family owned, Italian places that kids even enjoy. The other thing that I enjoy a lot when it comes to Italy is something that is called agricultural tourism, or agriturismo, which is kind of those like farm houses, or farm farms per se, that they've actually renovated it. They added multiple facilities, and so it's an accommodation. They've developed restaurants, farming. It's basically farm to table experiences, and that's amazing. And they've added other activities for the kids as well. I know a lot of families would love to stay in those agritourism tourism places, because they want the kids to really see where the food is coming from. And when we are talking about the actual organic food, that truly is, obviously seeing all the animals and getting the food ready in cultural and cooking classes is very unique. So I'm going to ask Ernie to again take us to the Italy family journeys, and tell us more about this.
Yeah. So this is a fantastic highlight itinerary that essentially goes from Rome right up to Venice. So you're starting off essentially, going into the Colosseum, like I had mentioned, and going to the gladiator school. So we get the entire family dressed up in, the authentic gladiator wear, not the real stuff, because that's all in museums. So essentially refabricated ones. And we essentially go through a storytelling phase where we actually have the families broken up into teams, and they reenact an old school gladiator fight, and that history comes to life. And that's one of the ways that we essentially not only motivate, but then also create and bring the history of Italy to life, is by doing these types of hands-on experiences. And not to mention, it's going to be something that the families are going to remember for the rest of their lives as well. And when the kids go back to school, they're going to be talking to all of their friends, that they had the opportunity to be able to dress up as a gladiator and actually go through the Colosseum and all of that kind of stuff. So that's a really, really fantastic experience there as well. But then also going to a local museum as well, and learning about Leonardo da Vinci and his paintings as well. And like Leila had mentioned as well, there's so many museums within Italy that there's only so much time that we can actually have to be able to see it all. Even for myself, like when I've gone to Rome, a day is not enough to be able to see everything. It's literally probably a good few days, if not a week, to be able to really just spend a full immersive time in Rome. But we definitely want to pick those key areas that are definitely going to be some great introductory experiences for the family. And then also going into Florence and doing those hands-on cooking classes. Like Leila had mentioned, if you're going to Italy, probably one of the big things is the food. So to be able to really immerse the children in that authentic, Italian cuisine, doing those hands-on pasta classes are fantastic. And then to be able to really enjoy the fruits of your labor are fantastic. So definitely some fantastic food experiences there. And definitely all across the board, we're not going to, the chain hotel restaurants or the chain restaurants or anything like that. These are all locally owned restaurants that we're going to and that we're supporting. So we're going where the locals are eating and not where the tourists are eating. So you're going to have those fresh mozzarella balls, and the parents are going to have the opportunity to have some fantastic Italian wine as well. So, it is a family trip, but we do realize that, parents want to be able to have those enjoyable and memorable experiences as well. So that's another key thing to keep in mind, is that we will have those opportunities to really enjoy all of us, essentially. And then going up into Venice as well is going to the Venetian mask making factory as well. So those are just one of the experiences that we have, and creating those Venetian masks one of the days, and then having some free time. So that's one of the key things. Balance is huge, regardless of where we're going. Yes, we're going to have some fantastic group activities that we're going to be able to do. But then there is also going to be that opportunity for you as a family to be able to break away and go do a gondola ride in the canals of Venice, go explore the many bridges throughout the canals. Whatever it is that you want to do, you will still have that opportunity to do it. And if you don't know what you want to do, that's why the CEOs are there to give you those suggestions of what you can do in Venice, what you can do in Florence and Rome. And if there's anything that needs to be booked, they will definitely help facilitate that and make sure that it's all taken care of when there is that opportunity to be able to break away from the group, for you to be able to go and do that with your family as well, which is fantastic. So like I said, this is an 8-day itinerary, but a lot of the times people will actually either tack on a couple of days in Rome before, or they'll do an extra day in Rome or an extra day at the end in Venice as well, and kind of create that 10-day experience. Or if not, then Leela is there as well to be able to kind of build another itinerary and kind of extend your stay and do an agriturismo as well. We have some fantastic agriturismos in Italy as well. So definitely some fantastic experiences that can be had and extended and built onto these itineraries, which is great. Yeah.
I just wanted to add a side note, which is as a result of obviously none of us traveling, and what's happening now. One of the posts that I recently had in my Instagram account was the fact that Venice canals have been the cleanest since the past 60 years. It's been like you can actually, it's been the clearest water for so many years, and there's actually swans showing up in the canal. So it's
And dolphins as well. And
yeah,
dolphins. Yeah,
yeah.
it's crazy. I didn't even think that dolphins could go into the canal. Didn't even cross my mind. And as the story started to develop, these good stories came through, and to be able to hear these fantastic stories of the canal clearing and all that kind of stuff is fantastic. So yeah, definitely some fantastic stories coming out of Italy.
All right, going to France. I guess one of the things that I always ask people, they say, "Oh, you know what? We've been to France," and by France they only mean they've been to Paris. They've seen Paris and maybe just the Normandy beach, and that's probably it. Or they've been to the south of France. But I just wanted to briefly a little bit talk about France, and obviously, if you're a lover of art, cuisines, architecture, or anything poetic, where else do we want to go except France? And one of the things that I really like about France, and it's Ernie will talk about it more, but in the Loire Valley area, you will see all those fairy tale castles that I guess the kids have seen it in the movies, but then part of that experience would be to actually go into seeing those chateaus, or even staying in those chateaus. And the weather is amazing. There's also an opportunity to refresh your French, it may be interesting experience. And obviously the cuisines and the shopping. And one of the things that I personally love about France is the whole history of world wars, and how much history is actually there. So I want Ernie to now take us to France and tell us about this experience.
Yeah. So talking about our family journeys trip from Paris right through Normandy and beyond, as we call it. So this is probably the one of the best itineraries for the storytelling themes, to actually be able to, go to Normandy Beach, and learn about World War II, which is a huge historical moment in the world's history. To learn about D-Day and landings on the beaches, and to really be able to bring that story to life. We'll actually have the family dress up in uniforms and kind of reenact various scenes from the landings, and different battles and stuff like that, really just to kind of bring the story of World War II to life and make it a little bit more palatable to the young minds, instead of just talking about it and then going to see, but to be able to experience hands-on. That is really, really important. Going into the Loire Valley as well, going into the chateaus, and actually walking in, the footsteps of counts and countesses of, times past, and really kind of experiencing what old world France used to be like, and having the CEOs talk about that as well, and really see some of these most magnificent properties, to be able to walk through the Chateau de Chanussé. Am I saying that right? Probably not. I'm probably butchering it. But essentially going into the maze, and getting lost in the maze as well, is absolutely amazing. And then doing those hands-on cooking classes as well, where we're going to be doing a crepe making cooking class as well. Who doesn't love crepes? And to really learn some of that as well. But to be able to immerse the family in the French countryside and have a little bit of the Paris experiences as well. They're two very, very different types of experiences, which is definitely going to give you a huge taste to the various different parts of France as well, and the history within the various smaller towns and villages that we go to, and experiences as well. So this one is definitely a really, really great kind of introductory tour to France, but also into Europe as well. Going and having the opportunity to be able to go to the Louvre, go see the CN Tower, the Eiffel Tower, are fantastic. And as you have the free time, you can definitely add on, depending if you're more of that art buff, that loves to, wants to go to the Louvre, wants to go see, the Mona Lisa. We can definitely help get you there with the CEO as well. So there's definitely some really, really great opportunities to be able to experience within France as well. And you will have that balance to be able to kind of go out and experience some stuff on your own as well.
All right, moving on to South Africa. So if you missed, we actually talked about South Africa 2 weeks ago, to be exact. So that basically the whole session was about South Africa. So if you missed it, we'll put the link in the chat box right now to see all of our recordings. But I just wanted to again bring your attention why South Africa is so important. It's also a great place for adventure type of travel, and it's one of the places that has adventure, history, fantastic food, lots of wine experiences, great beach and coastline, and they're speaking English, so there won't be any language barrier, and obviously lots of animals and whale watching experiences. But what stands out most for me is the fact that you can see penguins, and it's such a unique thing that you can actually have all of it in a country, and South Africa has it all. Plus, obviously, those safari experiences that you could have in South Africa. So I don't want to go into the too much detail of South Africa. Go and watch our webinar that we had about South Africa. but I'm going to pass it on to Ernie again to tell us about this specific itinerary of South Africa by National Geographic.
Yeah, so this one is probably one of my favorite itineraries in all of our family programs. Ever since I was a kid, I've always been really, really into The Lion King. And having the opportunity as a young child to be able to potentially go and see, and bring The Lion King to life, this is that specific itinerary that your kids will literally love you for the rest of your life. They will thank you a million times over because of this itinerary. And we're finding that a lot of families are really, really looking to do something very, very different. And if you're looking for more of that animal-based type of experience, doing those safaris, this is that itinerary for you. And this is the perfect highlight itinerary for South Africa, to go right down from the bottom of Cape Town, and go into Johannesburg, go into Kruger National Park, and end up in Victoria Falls. This itinerary is the most ideal. You're getting a little bit of the city, a little bit of the safari experience, and then also ending in Victoria Falls and really getting that natural wonder, is absolutely fantastic. So in Cape Town, like Leela had mentioned, there's multiple different things to do. We only spend about 2 days, I'd say, in Cape Town. So I would highly recommend actually going in a day or two earlier, not only because it's a long flight, but also for you to be able to acclimate, relax, and really kind of get used to your surroundings. But the opportunities to actually, and the different things to see within Cape Town are fantastic. You have everything from the beach, like Leela had mentioned, going to see the African penguins, and going to Boulder Beach, absolutely fantastic. If you wanted to view some of the flora and fauna, going into the botanical gardens as well, absolutely fantastic. And getting a guided tour of that as well. But obviously Table Mountain is a huge, huge attraction within Cape Town, as well as actually to take the cable car. Ugh, I'm like getting tongue tied here. To take the cable car up to Table Mountain as well. And to be able to see Cape Town on a clear day, all of Cape Town in this beautiful bowl, with the ocean is absolutely stunning. But if you are a little bit more of that active type of family as well, then you can definitely do the hiking within Cape Town. Some fantastic restaurants there as well. So if your family is big into food and loves food, there's everything from wild game all the way to seafood to regular food as well. So whatever your heart desires, they have. And then obviously for the parents to indulge a little bit as well, the wine is actually cheaper than the soft drinks and the water. So just keep that in mind as well. So then from Cape Town, we'll be flying into Kruger National Park. And this is where that Lion King experience is going to come to life. This is where we're going to be staying in a permanent tented camp on the reserve within Kruger National Park as well. So we will be doing some safari experiences, like I had mentioned, going in and seeing, the lions, the leopards, the big five, all of that. We'll have that opportunity to be able to see. Hopefully, we'll be able to catch the big five. We can never guarantee that. But then also having the downtime to be able to go and relax by the pool at the lodge as well, and really kind of see Kruger, and the wildlife and the world just pass by. As you're swimming or lounging by the pool, the kids are playing within the area as well. You'll see giraffes trotting by. Like it's one of those surreal experiences that you'll never forget. And not very many people can say that they've lounged by the pool and had giraffes walking by and all of that kind of stuff and all of the wildlife. So that's definitely going to be a huge highlight. To be able to do those safari game drives as well is fantastic. Then going into the cradle of humankind as well too, and going in and learning about the history within Africa that dates back to, they have fossils that date back to over 3 million years, which is, mind boggling to even think about, something like that. But then to actually see, a fossil that dates back to over 3 million years ago is just crazy. And to have that kind of story be played out by the CEO is fantastic as well. Um, Another huge opportunity that we have here as well is actually going into a chimpanzee sanctuary as well. And this is actually founded by the Jane Goodall Foundation as well and the Institute. So this is a sanctuary that's supported by the Institute. And we actually have a partnership with Jane Goodall and her foundation as well. So we have a series of tours that feature Jane Goodall experiences in there as well. So to be able to go into one of her institutes is absolutely fantastic. So that's one key thing to keep in mind. And then ending up in Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe here as well, and really going to see Victoria Falls. For those that live within Ontario and outside of the province, those that have gone to Niagara Falls, Victoria Falls is literally 3 to 4 times bigger than Niagara Falls. Victoria Falls puts Niagara Falls to shame. If you get a chance, definitely do watch some videos. We do have options where you can actually do an overflight of Victoria Falls as well to really get a full encompassing view of the falls, just because they're so surreal and so massive that you just can't really picture how big it is until you're actually getting a bird's eye view of the falls. So we'll actually spend some time there as well. We'll walk through the various walkways. The CEO will talk about the falls as well, which will definitely be a really, really neat experience. And to be able to hear the rumbles and the vibration, it will literally shake you to your core. The sheer volume of water that's falling, it's absolutely amazing and breathtaking. And this is going to be another part of the itinerary that you will definitely remember for sure.
Excellent. I guess we're coming to an end. We'll be sharing the recorded link to people who've registered and attended, and we'll be sending them a children's coloring book. But we have some other interesting things for older kids and some sort of like puzzles and crosswords that we will be sharing with that for your teenagers. Again, travel related, absolutely. And I just wanted to open up for any questions that you may have had. I totally forgot to mention it at the beginning that we'll have probably a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. So if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself or put it into the chat box, and Ernie and I will respond to that to the best of our knowledge.
Great presentation, Leila and Ernie. Very nice. I'm feeling like I didn't expect even such a good information coming. Like my expectation was totally different. Let's put it this way.
I take that as a compliment.
Absolutely. I was thinking that we watch some videos like going like some destination for kids and etc. etc. But actually, that was very informative, very good. Leila, probably we travel with kids. We used to travel with our grandson, and we love it. So that was very interesting. In addition to the adventure travelers that I would like to do.
Perfect.
So just for the record, Rado is one of our travel buddies, actually. So we travel a lot together. We're very adventurous, but they have their grandson as well. So they do something separate with their grandson as well. I'm so glad that you were able to join us, Rado. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I highly encourage you to actually watch the South Africa webinar too, because I think that was also very good. And we went into the details of the South Africa and different regions.
Well, yeah, definitely. Remember, we were planning South Africa in 2012 when the Ebola came out, I believe. So,
Oh.
on top, I have some friends now, new friends in South Africa, and also clients. So that will be on the list, definitely.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Any other question?
So, Erin, you're with Gap Adventures, or you call it G
Uh,
Adventures now?
yeah, G Adventures. Yeah, yeah. We've been G Adventures for many years now.
For a
In
while.
fact, we
Well,
used to be called Gap. Yeah.
I'm an old client. I was like my first adventure travels were with Gap
Okay.
Adventures. Jody.
Well, we'd love to have you back.
Thanks.
Okay, so we have a question from Donna, and the question is, do you have suggestions for an adventure-loving family? The parents used to live in the Rocky Mountains. Our 14-year-old, I assume, has mobility issues, and we find it challenging to find a vacation for everyone.
Yeah, so I mean that's definitely a sidebar conversation that you can have with Leela as well. We just need to know specifics as to what the mobility is, just because depending on where we're going and what destinations and what we're doing, it might not be plausible. But depending on what the mobility issue is, we might be able to make arrangements and kind of make the travel dream come true for sure.
Donna, like at the high level, a lot of these experiences, probably if it's a kind of like a wheelchair type of thing, it's most of it's doable. So if it's not really hiking, those are some of the things that could be arranged. But we could take it offline and give you some other, or I'd love to find out more about the mobility issues. Any other questions, everyone? So where do you want where do we want to go next? I'm so curious to find out.
I choose all of the above, although I've been to half of the places.
That's a good attitude.
I can go, like, I've been 2 times to Peru. I can go 4 more times.
Well, yeah, there's so much to see and do in Peru. Yeah, you can't do it all in one time unless you're there for months and months. But yeah, even for me, I've been once, but I still want to go to the northern part of Peru and I want to go down to the south. So those are like 2 separate trips on its own. So I'll get there eventually.
All right, it seems like we don't have any other questions. So I wanted to thank you all for spending your evening with us. I typically say that bring your glass of wine, but this was a kind of like a kid-friendly setting. So I was not really advertising to bringing booze on. But typically when I run this virtual travel series, I have my glass of wine from that region that we're traveling. And for those of us joining us, our upcoming is next week. We're going to talk about Egypt. That's very exciting. And then the following week, we'll be going to Christmas markets by the rivers. I'm very excited about that, and I'm planning for East Africa in the coming weeks and some other exciting places. So if you have any suggestions, feedback, or places that you want us to basically organize these type of webinars and travel series, let me know. I'm more than happy to arrange something for that specific region. But thank you all. I personally had so much fun. Thank you again, Ernie. It was
Thank you
great
for having
having
me.
you. And let me know if you have any other questions. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, guys. It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
Bye. Night, everyone.